65 of the visual and print media. And if there's any overflow, like for when the Cubs are going to be in the World Series this year, they'll actually put some tables down right here in the concourse and have any of the kind of overflow media right out of that upper deck. But this will be expanded, which is part of the kind of renovation and expansion project that's currently underway. It's called the 1060 project. So you can expect this to be a little bit bigger the next few seasons. But one of the reasons why I really love to bring people up here is it really puts into perspective how this is just a ballpark in the middle of a neighborhood, right? Not a lot of places can say that. I got the north side, a neighborhood here of Lakeview, and some people call this area Wrigley Field as well. Over my right-hand shoulder, you can see kind of a little bit of peak, sometimes it's a little clearer, but of Lake Michigan. And on a beautiful afternoon game here, a lot of times you can see sailboats out there dotting that horizon line. So it's just really, really beautiful. But one of the other reasons why I love to bring people up here is to give you a great view while I talk about our scoreboard. Okay, one of the other really iconic aspects of the ballpark here, our scoreboard that is installed in 1937, the same year that those bleachers and the ivy went up. And it's one of those 3 protected landmarks that I talked about, right? Our scoreboard here. Now, on game day, there's about 4 to 6 men inside that scoreboard manually operating it, right? That means they take the little windows off and they replace them with the corresponding runs per inning that are happening throughout the games throughout the league. Now, if you do kind of quick math up there, you might notice there's only 24 slots for teams up there. Well, there's 30 teams in professional baseball. But because it's a protected landmark, we can't change that. No matter how many teams there are, there will always be only 24 slots up there. Those Cubs will always be between those red stripes in the bottom left. The White Sox will always be in that bottom right, unless they're playing each other. Earlier this season, they were both in that bottom left-hand corner. Kind of how we work it is if there's a West Coast game that starts at 9:20 Central Time and we're playing 1:20, it's not going to make it up in that scoreboard. Also, if it doesn't have any consequence to our standings or towards the division race, it's not going to make it up on that board as well. Now, I did say that there were 4 to 6 men working inside that scoreboard. I do mean men. A woman has never worked inside the scoreboard. Now, I promise, it is not because we don't think that you are capable of being up there. We think you are much too intelligent to be up there. There's no air conditioning, there's no heating, and most importantly, there's no plumbing up there. I'm not going to make you use too much of your imagination. It involves a PVC pipe with funnel and gravity. I'll kind of leave it at that. But on an August afternoon game in Chicago, and it's like 90 plus degrees with humidity, it's easily almost 120 degrees inside the scoreboard. Conversely, on an April night game, let's say, and it's 45 degrees in the city, it's close to freezing inside that scoreboard. So not the greatest climate up there by any means. But the only thing that's not operated inside that scoreboard is where you see batter ball striking out in the center of the board. That's operated just up in that corner there, that gentleman standing at that green box, right? And it's operated by a man named Rick Hughes. Rick's one of the head groundskeepers here, and he's been operating that for over 20 years. Now, if you guys get an opportunity to come to a game, I challenge you to watch the pitch and catch it being changed up there on that scoreboard, all right? It's almost instantaneous. He's gotten the nickname Quick Rick because he is, in fact, so fast. And he's gotten so fast because he's studied umpires for over 25 years. So Hunter Wendelstadt turns his foot out a little bit to the right before he calls a strike. Well, yeah, Rick knows that it's going to be a strike, and he changes it really quickly. Now, actually got Rick and the Cubs in a bit of trouble one time. Cubs unfortunately had an outfielder named Milton Bradley for a period of time. Probably brings some shudders to some fans. Well, there was one out in the inning, fly ball to Milton, gets under it, ready to catch it. Rick changes into 2 out. Milton looks up at the scoreboard, 2 out on the board, thinks he caught the 3rd out. He tosses the ball into the crowd as a souvenir, starts heading towards the dugout. Problem is, there was a runner on 3rd base. That runner came home and scored. The Cubs lost by 1 run. So some people argue, was Rick too quick? Should Milton have known how many outs there was? Well, Rick's still here, Milton's not. I think it kind of really settles that debate. Now, of course I have to talk about our lights when we're up here. Those lights were installed in 1988. All right, Cubs were the last team by far to have lights. The second to last team were the Detroit Tigers. They got their lights in 1948. Okay, so 40-year gap. The Cubs were originally supposed to be one of the first teams. They had the lights all purchased and ready to go and put underneath those bleachers to go up in the 1942 season. Well, December 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor, they immediately donated those lights to the war effort. And actually, P.K. Wrigley thought that night baseball was going to be kind of a passing fad. So, not quite. August 8th, 1988, 8/8/88. It's got a really nice ring to it. They brought the oldest living season ticket holder out to the pitcher's mound through a big switch, said, "Let there be lights." Well, then it rained. You guys remember the game got rained out. And Kerry Carey, actually our famous broadcaster, quoted as saying that was God's way of saying there should be night baseball played at Wrigley Field. We defied the gods, played anyway the next night, and continue to play night games here ever since. But still far fewer than anyone else. This season, 32 night games on our schedule. We still really respect the fact, again, that we're just right in the middle of a neighborhood here. Not everyone wants 42,000 people in their backyard on a Tuesday night. So yeah. But we'll talk about just one more thing while we're up here. Harry Carey. If you remember our famous broadcaster in that booth right there to our left. Harry probably most famously known for doing his rendition of Take Me Out to the Ball Game during the 7th inning stretch. That tradition actually started on the south side of Chicago when he was a broadcaster for the Chicago White Sox. He brought it here when he came over in the mid-1980s. And even after he passed away, we still keep the tradition alive by bringing guest conductors, right? Different celebrities, musicians. And if they do a good job, that's fine. But when they do a terrible job, that's what we really love it. And it goes down in infamy. Some of the most infamous, Mike Ditka, you guys famous coach of the Chicago Bears, 1985, Super Bowl champs. Pretty intimidating guy as is. He actually took that ramp trip that we took in about 10 seconds flat because he was running late. So by the time he got to that microphone, screamed out his version of Taking Out to the Ball Game in about 10 seconds before the organist was even halfway done. A lot of frightened people in the ballpark that night. But probably the most famous, Sharon and Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah, a lot of people shaking their head. Hard enough to understand as is. Not sure if they knew it was a song. We don't really know what happened there, but rumor has it that the players actually came out of the dugout so they could look up and see what was happening up here because they couldn't believe it was so bad. But yeah, just some of the many things that have happened here at the ballpark. So, guys, our last stop on the trip is going to be right down to that field. Gives you guys an opportunity to get on the field, get some awesome picture opportunities. So I'm going to have Bill lead you guys downstairs, and we'd be more than happy to take some photos from you guys or answer any more questions that you have. So